Nityananda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Better late than never. I was doing a lot of things yesterday, which meant that I had a lot of things to do late last night and early this morning that I didn't do. So excuse me for being late. Some of you may have lost hope that there was going to be class today, but there is. Hare Krishna. So we'll begin Kirtan, and that gives the other devotees time to come. And we're going to be speaking about Mahaprabhu, leading up to Gaura Purnima. That's the plan. That is the plan for this week, and all the way up to Gaura Purnima. Why just speak one day when we could speak many days? That's the idea. Right? Good idea? Hare Krishna. We need more light, right? It's now earlier in the morning than because of daylight savings. It's different, so it's actually earlier. It's darker. Hare Krishna. I should be... Excuse me for not being so set up. I should be more set up, but I'm not. Anyway. Hare Krishna. Doing my best, considering everything, and I can do better. We can always do better, right? Gauranga. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Shodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Shodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Shodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Suranandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Shodha Nandana Vrajajananjana Shodhanandana Vrajajananjana Shodhanandana Vrajajananjana Shodhanandana Vrajajananjana Jamanatira Bhana Shari Jamuna Tira Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Hey Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Ram Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Shamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvise Sasindhivari Paschatya Dasatarini. So in the last class we were speaking a little bit about why Lord Chaitanya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why he came to give something so high to people so unqualified and so undeserving. And then we explained that when a man is wealthy and he gives charity, he's going to give a lot. And so Mahaprabhu had a lot to give. He could give everything. And we also explained that when Krishna said surrender, he was finding there weren't many takers. So then he thought, well, we won't ask for a surrender. We'll ask for a surrender later. We will give now, and then you can pay later. You buy now, pay later, credit. We'll give Krishna on credit, so to speak. So even you're not ready to surrender, take the holy name, chant it, take Krishna Prasadam, hear from the pure devotee. And then you can work on your surrender. You can pay later. And then that's never the way it's been. Surrender is always the first requisite. And previously, even being born in a Brahmin family is prerequisite. Then getting initiated, that's prerequisite. You can't get mantras, Vedic mantras, if you're not initiated. And the Hare Krishna mantra is in fact a Vedic mantra. But Mahaprabhu turned it around because it's Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. So he turned it around to Hare Krishna. Now it's not a Vedic mantra, which means everybody can get it. But if it's a Vedic mantra, you have to be initiated. Upanayanam, Brahma Gayatri. Then you can study with the Guru. Only then can you get the mantra, and only then will the mantra have effect. If you don't get it through initiation, the mantra doesn't work. You can chant it, but there'll be no effect. So it's quite a restricted position. Only certain people could get it. You have to be elevated to that position, if not born into it. So Mahaprabhu came with a new program, which was you don't have to be born into it, and you can be born in any caste, in any position, or outcast. And you don't require initiation to chant the holy name. That's why the Shastra says the holy name doesn't wait for initiation. Whereas you cannot chant Brahma Gayatri without initiation. You cannot chant Vedic mantras without initiation. You cannot do certain yagyas, pujas without initiation. But the Hare Krishna mantra is more powerful than all of that. And you don't require initiation. So this kind of disrupted the whole social order and the whole philosophy. And so we could say Mahaprabhu is a revolutionary. But he came, it wasn't his intention to disrupt it. He came to give love of Krishna. He just had to disrupt everything to do it. That wasn't his mission to disrupt. It's a byproduct, as far as I can see. He came to give love of Krishna, at least the external reason. So what I wanted to talk about today, which I think is very important, is understanding Mahaprabhu in the context of history, as we're explaining now, with the hope, or with my desire, that we gain a greater appreciation for him and what he's giving. Because appreciation is important for many reasons, but one reason that I'm thinking now is that inspiration to do devotional service is often proportionate to appreciation. If I don't appreciate something, I'm less inclined to engage with it. I'm less inclined to be interested in it. But when I appreciate it, I'm more inclined to be engaged in it. Like, you might have something, maybe someone gave you a gift, and you don't really know how to use it or appreciate what it does, and then your friend comes over and says, "Oh my God, you have one of these. Do you know that I sprained my leg and my ankle, and I put this on, and it actually healed it in 3 days? I mean, this thing's amazing, you know. Like 10 years ago, this would have cost $100,000. Did you know that?" I go, "No, I didn't know that." "Oh yeah, it's healed all kinds of ailments." "Really? I didn't know that. Someone said this was good for my health. They gave it to me for my birthday. I haven't used it. It's just been sitting around." Yeah, because I didn't know. I didn't appreciate it. So that's the problem with not appreciating. And so it's so important that in the second verse of Shishastakam, Mahaprabhu talks about appreciating the holy name, but not appreciating it in the sense that I know you've put yourself and all your Shaktis in your holy name, and therefore I can connect with you and ultimately get prema, ultimately become revived in my Krishna consciousness. But somehow or other, my great misfortune is that I'm not attracted. So the first half of the verse is appreciation. The second half of the verse is reality, that I have no attraction. That's the unfortunate reality. That's how we start our spiritual practice. But the first, I just wanted to point out, the first part of that verse is appreciation. And I think that's significant, that the meditation is on the kindness of Krishna. He's so kind that he's present in his name, and he's making himself available, and he's giving himself freely, and there's no condition and there's no qualification. And he's making himself freely to everyone for the price of just a little faith, a little desire, or even without faith, just for the price of trying. Of course, faith is required to advance, but initially you don't even require faith. Some appreciation that this is nice, let me try it, maybe it works. But for us, as we progress in Krishna consciousness, this verse, I think, is important for our meditation, because it is an appreciation. And whenever our chanting is not where we want it to be, not whenever, but often, when our chanting is not where we want it to be, appreciation, just stopping and appreciating my position, having the holy name and what the holy name can do, appreciating my fortune, can create a 180-degree change in consciousness. And now I'm alive. Wow, I'm so fortunate. Sometimes we take for granted our fortune. There's that story of a man who had no shoes, but he was okay. And they asked him, you have no shoes. Why are you okay? And he said, well, some people don't have any feet. So I have feet, so I'm okay. So, appreciation can change things greatly. Yeah, I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction. That's true. But you do have the holy name. And you think, yeah, that's true. I have the holy name. I'm not attracted, but I have the process, and I can become attracted if I follow the process. So, yes, appreciation is it's really important. I'm trying to. Yeah. So appreciation is extremely important because it can keep us going during difficult times. And there will be difficult times for all of us. And no matter how difficult, no matter what we face, and no matter what's taken from us, and things will be taken from us, or the body will be taken from us. No matter what, we still have Krishna, we still have the holy name. And if that's your meditation, then your consciousness will be completely different than if you're focused on what you don't have. And a lot of us, unfortunately, focus on what we don't have, or we focus on what's wrong with us. So we don't have a lot of things, and there are a lot of things wrong with us. But you will find in your life that focusing on lack and focusing on what's wrong is, it's just the wrong path. It doesn't work. In some limited way it can work, because if I focus on what's wrong with me, I can improve it. But when I say focus, I mean predominantly focus. If it's your predominant focus on what's wrong with me, or your predominant focus on what I lack, you undermine your ability to appreciate who you are and what you have. And when you appreciate who you are and what you have, it's a very positive attitude, and it creates positive emotions. When you do the opposite, it creates negative attitudes and negative emotions. And really, appreciation in many ways is our shelter, because we're never going to lose Krishna, and we're never going to lose the holy name, we're never going to lose Sangha, we're never going to lose the Bhagavatam, we're never going to lose the things that are essential for our devotional practice. They're always there, no matter what we lose materially, they're always there. And if those become the focus of our appreciation, they become the boat that's going to cross us over the ocean of all these difficulties that we'll face in life. And you may not be facing great difficulties now, but as you go through life, there will be. It's just inevitable. There will be problems. But the stable boat, or the shelter, or the foundation of our life is our sadhana. And when we appreciate that every day, we appreciate it by doing it properly. That's another thing. When we appreciate it every day, it becomes our foundation for stability. And if we become lax in our sadhana, it's hard to appreciate it. Because it's like I have that instrument that cures so many ailments, but if I don't know how to use it, then I don't appreciate it, because I'm not getting the benefit from it. So my friend says, oh, this is amazing, but I don't see how it's amazing because I don't know how to use it. So in the same way, with the gifts that we're given, the appreciation is going to increase if you use them properly, because you'll get benefit from them. But if you use them improperly and you don't get benefit from them, then it becomes very difficult in your spiritual life. And then you may tend to focus on the lack, or what's wrong, or what we don't have, or the cup is half empty type thing, because your experience is going to be the half emptiness, not the half fullness. So this is you can't artificially appreciate continually just by understanding the value, although that's something we still need to do, but it has to be combined with the practices of Krishna consciousness, because those practices done well, increase the appreciation or substantiate the appreciation because it's real for you. It's an experience you're having. So now we go back to why and how to appreciate Mahaprabhu. As I've said before, I've actually said this many times because Prabhupada said this many times. Many times Prabhupada would almost plead to us. And he would say, he would talk about the mercy of Mahaprabhu. Then he would explain that by his mercy in this lifetime, you can go back home, back to Godhead. You can develop Krishna consciousness. You can enter Krishna Lila in one lifetime, unheard of. And not just Krishna Lila in Vaikuntha, but Prabhupada introduced us to Vrindavan, and he introduced us, as Mahaprabhu did, to the love of Radharani. So this is all unprecedented in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. This is not some common occurrence. And so Prabhupada would explain these things to us, and then he would say, take advantage. Don't waste this human form of life. In other words, and then he would say, you're on the verge of deathlessness. It's like you're so close. You have everything now. So it was kind of a plead for appreciation, the way I saw it. I mean, of course, he was pleading to our intelligence as well, but also pleading to our appreciations. Like, look what you have. Don't throw it away. You know, look at this. This cost $100,000 10 years ago. Now you've got it as a gift, and it can heal so many ailments. Don't take this for granted. You know, use this. So many times, this is how Prabhupada was speaking to us, like kind of us, like almost like saying, don't you appreciate this? Don't you understand what you have? And the reality was, we understood and we didn't understand. Both things were there. Today is water. No nasty tea, just water. Boiled water. Boiled water is good for you. So, who is Mahaprabhu? Of course, we know Mahaprabhu is a combination of Radha and Krishna. And he's golden because when he told Radha he was going to come and give this special mercy, she said, well, you're going to be rolling on the ground in ecstasy, so I will cover your body. And that's why he's golden. And he represents the compassionate nature of Radha. And there are stories in which, for the Leela, Krishna was not so compassionate to someone, but Radha showed compassion, complete compassion. So she's the personification of Krishna's compassion. And so when Mahaprabhu comes, he personifies that compassion. And the way compassion works is it doesn't qualify anybody. It's like everybody gets it. Like now with the pandemic in some countries, everybody gets money. And last time, people got money who didn't even need it. It was just the government was giving money to everyone who was earning less than a certain amount. But some people didn't lose their jobs. They had good income. They didn't even need it. It's just given kind of indiscriminately without judging who is capable, who is qualified. So that's how compassion works. Compassion is juxtaposed to qualification. Qualification means we look at your credentials, we look at your resume, and then we see if you're qualified. Or we look at your financial statement. Are you qualified to go on welfare? Did you lose your job? Do you get unemployment insurance? Etc. Excuse me, the sun is coming up. I have to... my sun tilak. You see my sun tilak. Sometimes you'll see it. So, when you seek qualification, seeking qualification means those who are qualified get whatever is being given, or get entrance into whatever they want to enter into. Those who are not qualified don't. Like you, if you don't have a certain grade average, or you haven't taken certain courses, or you don't pass certain tests, you can't get into certain universities. If you apply compassion to that idea, and they say, we're opening up this university, we are going to open it up to 10,000 new students, and they don't need any qualification. All they have to do is have a high school diploma, or something like that. Or they don't even need a high school diploma. It's just whatever your qualification, we let you in. And this is the best university in the world, because Mahaprabhu is giving the best thing to people who have no qualification. So mercy works in this way, and it is exactly the opposite of qualification. Mercy does not look for qualification. Mercy only looks for people who will take it. And fortunately for us, Mahaprabhu's giving mercy, because if he wasn't giving mercy, we would not be qualified by birth, by past samskars and so forth. And therefore we couldn't be initiated, and we couldn't get any mantra. But he's not qualifying, he's not saying that anyone has to be qualified to chant this mantra. We have a mantra now where no one needs any qualification to chant it. You don't even need to be initiated. Okay, let's try this. Okay, that seems to work. And the sun's moving. And I got rid of that tilak. Surya tilak. We call it Surya tilak. So mercy, the definition of mercy means you get something which you don't deserve. So what did Mahaprabhu do? He decided, well, because no one's surrendering, we'll just forget that qualification. And traditionally, only those born in Brahmin families, educated in Gurukul, sitting at the feet of the Guru, were given the mantras. And not even the women weren't given mantras in those days, only the husbands. So it was, it was as far as I understand, to the men. The women did not go to Gurukul generally. There may be exceptions. And that's why it said the husband was the guru for the wife, because she didn't go to Gurukul. And then when they got married, he could teach her what he learned. So now we understand, and now we see things are different, right? I don't know why this keeps freezing, but I don't think it's the internet. I think sometimes it may have something to do with Facebook. So if we look at our lives, then we can understand we're not really qualified to take birth in a pure Brahmin family that have the dequalification. And so Mahaprabhu, seeing that there will be few people. Actually, Shastra says there are no real Brahmins in Kali Yuga. Nobody's a Brahmin. In fact, there's a verse, interestingly, it says that demons will be born as Brahmins in Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga is quite messed up. And so, in terms of Vedic qualification, we can't say no one's qualified, but very few are purely qualified to be Brahmanas and get Vedic mantras. So Mahaprabhu, obviously understanding this, decides, okay, now we're just going to give it to everyone. Like, okay, Harvard University is open to anyone who wants to go. And what's the qualification? You just have to get to class. You just have to get to the university and register. That's your qualification. But what if I can't read? It doesn't matter. What if I can't write? It doesn't matter. All you have to do is get to the university and register for classes. What if I've never been to school before? It doesn't matter. Just get over and register. So that's Mahaprabhu's mood. Often I've said that Mahaprabhu comes once in a day of Brahma, so we're talking 8 billion, so many hundred of million years, like 8 billion, 600 million, some, or 400 million, some. I forget the exact number. So 8 billion. 8 billion is enough. You add a few hundred million to it, another 500,000 or so. 500 million, excuse me. Meditate on 8 billion. Just think about 8 billion years, how long that is. It's like, if you know anything about math, just 1 billion compared to a million seems infinitely greater. Yeah. My daughter once showed me the calculation of 1 billion to 1 million. And you take it for granted how much, we don't really realize how much more that is. 1 billion. It's when you figure it out, like she was reading something about income of billions, what that means. It's incredible. It's an incredible amount of numbers, a billion, when you put it to money and what it does, and you compare it to millions and how many millions, how much. I forget what she was saying. It was actually mind-boggling. Like how many people could have how many people. It seems simple. It's only a billion. It's like 1,000 million, but when you actually do the figures, it's incredible. So now, for us to imagine 1 million years, it's pretty intense. Imagine 1 billion years. Imagine 8 billion years. Imagine you have to wait 8 billion years. 8 billion years. We live 80 years, or 90, or 50, or 60, or 100. Let's say we live 100 years, and waiting 1 billion years. How many lifetimes is 1 billion? And then multiply that many by 8. That's the rarity of bhakti. So this Gaur Purnima, the rarity of bhakti given by Mahaprabhu, if this Gaur Purnima we can accomplish an intense appreciation just for the fact that I ended up the right place at the right time, that I got Krishna consciousness, that is going to be extremely helpful in inspiring us every day, even when things are difficult, even when there are challenges, even when there are austerities. We always think, how fortunate I am, despite all of this, that I have Mahaprabhu's mercy. So that's point number one, just the mathematical improbability of showing up at the right Kali Yuga at the right time. What to speak of showing up outside of India? What to speak of getting a spiritual master as merciful as Prabhupada, who could adapt so expertly and make concessions for us and work out deals with Krishna, 16 rounds, 4 principles. And therefore, Namo Mahabandhanaya, the most merciful incarnation, Prabhupada represents the most merciful incarnation. And so he's, Prabhupada said, I'm 90% lenient. My guru was 90% strict. So we meditate on this, the rarity of it, the fact that I'm in the right place at the right time, the fact that Krishna has sent Prabhupada, who is so lenient and so accepting, and if we can please Prabhupada, Krishna will be pleased. And Prabhupada does not make it difficult to please him. We add all this up together, and then we think, yes, I'm so fortunate. That's just one aspect of the great fortune. It's not the only aspect. But we can start there, just the rarity of it, and I have it. And if you appreciate the rarity of something, how can you let it go? You only let things go which you take for granted. You only let things go which you don't value. When you go into someone's garage, there's all this junk, stuff they don't need. It's not of value anymore. It's in the garage. They'll sell it. They'll get rid of it. They'll give it away. Okay, so we spoke a little bit about what is called Premanam in the last class. We are chanting Hare Krishna. And so the question is, well, do they chant Hare Krishna in other Kali Yugas? And the answer is yes, but Mahaprabhu has endowed the holy name in this age of Kali with prema in the mood of the residents of Braja. The holy name chanted in other ages was not endowed with that. So when they chanted Hare Krishna, it would only help them get to the point of Vaikuntha, not to Vrindavan. And so Mahaprabhu said, we will come and we will reveal the highest love of Vrindavan to people who are absolutely unqualified for it. And I think we all sometimes have this feeling when we're reading Shastra, or like we were reading the last, I guess, few weeks. We're reading very intimate pastimes of Krishna. And sometimes when we hear these things, we think, I'm so unqualified to be hearing this, because hearing it is like you're there. It's like you're in the Leela, or at least in the audience watching it. And so naturally, we feel unqualified. We've all felt that way here. This is so high. I have the privilege of entering into this pastime by hearing about it. What kind of mercy is that? It's inconceivable. So Mahaprabhu, he's saying, okay, we open the floodgates of love of God. There's no stone unturned. We're going to give you the Premanam, and we're going to give you Srimad Bhagavatam, and we're going to give you Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is the nectar on top of the nectar on top of the nectar. And we will live this ecstasy. We will demonstrate it in the association of devotees. So you can see it, and we will encourage you to also develop that kind of love. Now, we don't want to take this for granted, and I can understand that some of us may take it for granted because it's all we know. This is just what the Hare Krishna movement is. So it's like, okay, love of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, okay, fantastic, great, It's much more than fantastic, great. It's a rare thing. And we are entirely unqualified. That has to be, I think we understand that, but we need to be reminded, and those who are born in very elevated families included. This is the highest Leela. This requires the highest level of purity. And this to understand. And these kinds of things weren't even revealed previously to the time of Madhavendra Puri, who revealed it. And then Mahaprabhu came and just expanded it, and then Prabhupada came and expanded it to the world. And so when Prabhupada is speaking to hippies in 1965 in New York, what is he ultimately speaking about? He's speaking about the Mahabhava of Radharani. That's where it's all going. That's where it's all leading to. That's what he's giving them the potential to understand, and the potential to experience something like that, or on the way to that, or close to that. That's mind-boggling. That's never been given. That is not ordinary. So in other Kali Yugas, you can call it the Vaikuntha. The Hare Krishna mantra becomes the Vaikuntha Nam. It takes you to Vaikuntha, where that level and depth of love is not known, not seen, not heard of. We go beyond Vaikuntha, and we have absolutely no qualification. So imagine you are now allowed to enter Cambridge or Oxford or Harvard or Yale or MIT or IIT with no qualification. How would you feel? To put it colloquially, I feel stoked or jazzed, or whatever the current word is. Stoked may be out of usage now. Jazzed? I don't know. What's the word? What's the word today, everyone? What do they say? We definitely feel humbled. We definitely feel appreciative. We probably feel overwhelmed with joy. Oh my God, I got into Harvard. I don't even have a high school diploma. This is crazy. And they're fast tracking me on a program where I'll get a PhD in 4 years, and I can be a professor at Harvard, in 6 years. And you'd be like, oh, this is amazing. I can't believe this has happened. And then we come to Krishna consciousness, and if we don't have the perspective of what Mahaprabhu is giving, then sometimes we can take it for granted and say things like, oh, it's too hard, or I don't know, and I'm not really ready for it, and 108 excuses. So hopefully understanding Mahaprabhu's position will help us avoid those excuses, because those excuses are really stumbling blocks. Is the word today? No. We've passed the need for a word. Now we're onto something new. Stumped? Jazzed. Stoked. I'm stoked. I'm jazzed. I don't know. Doesn't matter. So let's get some more context. At the time of Mahaprabhu, impersonalism, as always in India from the time of Shankaracharya, was rampant. So impersonalism is basically an acid in one's relationship with Krishna, because if there's no person, there's no relationship. And so there's no rasa. And so it is, in a sense, more destructive, even though Prabhupada calls them transcendentalists. We're talking here about Mayavadis. In a sense, it's more destructive than atheism, because atheists are easier to convert to theists than Mayavadis. Mayavadis you can call theists, but it's not really. So most of India is steeped, or much of India is steeped in impersonalism and materialism. And Mahaprabhu comes to all these dry scholars who are doing tapasya and are not really happy, and he's converting them. One story, which you may know, which is fairly significant, is the story of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was considered extremely well-renowned and well-equipped scholar, academic you could call, well-respected in the community. His brother's name was Gopinath Acharya. His brother was a devotee. And his brother would tell him about Mahaprabhu, but Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, because he didn't have devotion, he couldn't understand Mahaprabhu, who he was. So even though he was seeing Mahaprabhu, he couldn't understand. And Gopinath, they were having discussions, and Gopinath Acharya said, Prasada Lesha Anugrahita. He, I believe is the verse. It said, you need to get a little mercy, because without it, you can't understand Mahaprabhu. You just, so we've discussed that in the discussion on Yoga Maya. You're right there with Mahaprabhu, or you're right there with Krishna, but you're not purified enough to see it. So Sarvabhauma, this well-renowned scholar, did not understand Mahaprabhu, and he was bewildered a bit by him, as you could imagine, because of his ecstasies, because of his beauty and so on. And he saw that Mahaprabhu fainted in the temple of Puri, and he noted it with some testing that this was genuine, these were genuine symptoms. But Sarvabhauma was worried about Mahaprabhu. He said, because he's quite young to take sannyas. He was 24. So that's like really young. So Sarvabhauma thought, this is kind of dangerous. If someone takes sannyas when they're 24, I need to instruct him to help him. Otherwise, he may not be able to maintain his vows. So Mahaprabhu accepted that you can instruct me. And so he decided to instruct him in Vedanta, because this is what the Mayavadis base their whole philosophy upon. Nothing wrong with Vedanta, it's just only wrong with their understanding of it. But apparently it's easier to turn Vedanta into Mayavad philosophy than Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam's the commentary on Vedanta, and Krishna is the star of Bhagavatam. It's like you can't really hide it, although they try in their foolish ways. So he began instructing Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya just listened. It went on for 7 days. And Mahaprabhu did, you could say, empathic listening. I mean, he didn't say anything. He just listened. Actually, it wasn't so empathic, because he, when he wasn't saying anything, there was like no response. And Sarvabhauma asked him, are you like hearing what I'm saying? Because I don't see any response, like physiologically. I don't see any response. You're just hearing, kind of like, not spacing out, but there's no like, no sign that you're like understanding and accepting. And then Mahaprabhu's, and then he asked him, he said, well, are you understanding what I'm saying? And Mahaprabhu said, well, I already understand Vedanta, but I don't understand, but what you're explaining, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't understand. And then later he kind of criticized him by saying that Vedanta Sutra it's clear. It's like sun, but you've like completely clouded the whole thing. So you've made it unintelligible. It's like sometimes Prabhupada says, there's so many editions of Bhagavad Gita, and these people are thinking, oh, so I have to throw my opinion, like Krishna's words aren't good enough. I have to throw my own opinion. It's like Krishna really doesn't have it together. I have to like add to it. So it's a little bit like that. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was like, well, who is this like impudent young man to say these things? Anyway, the discussion went to this verse, Atmaramas Chamunayo Nigranta Api Urukame, that devotees who are self-satisfied, they're attracted to the personal feature of Krishna, even though they're already liberated. Anyway, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya explained, I think, he made 6 comments, different comments on that verse. Then Mahaprabhu made 18 comments on that verse. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was like, whoa. You ever like, you just meet somebody, you don't know them, and then they start talking, or you hear them give a class, and then you realize, oh, this is not an ordinary person. Ordinary people do not talk like him. Ordinary people do not say what he's saying. It was something like that. It's like Mahaprabhu began speaking 18 different explanations of the Atmarama verse. And not one of those explanations was the same as Sarvabhauma's. So Sarvabhauma was quite bewildered. Like, who is this sannyasi? This is like confounding. He's just, run circles around me, listened to me for 7 days, didn't say anything, finally told me I don't know what I'm talking about, and now I tried to impress him with my interpretation of the Atmarama verse, and he gave me 18 better ones. And then he had a dream, and Saraswati came and said, no, this is Mahaprabhu. And then, anyway, Sarvabhauma finally surrendered. So once he surrendered, he started composing verses. There's famous verses, 100 verses. A verse that Prabhupada quotes a lot is Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Why did Mahaprabhu come? He came to give knowledge and renunciation. Shikar Tameka Purusha Pura. So this verse is just like, they could compose. That's even 500 years ago, They could compose like just on the spot in Sanskrit. So he composed 100 verses. He was converted. He finally realized. And then he's this, old, stuffy, ritualistic Brahmin type, impersonal. Everything's about ritual. It's not about the heart. It's not about devotion. It's all about follow the rules and regulations. So, you got to get up in the morning, you take bath, then you do your Gayatri mantra at the sunrise, then you do these prayers and do these oblations, chant these mantras. And so Mahaprabhu comes and wakes him up in the morning, and he's got Mahaprasadam. And he goes, Sarvabhauma, I have Jagannath Mahaprasadam. And immediately Sarvabhauma takes it. He didn't even wash his mouth. And that was Mahaprabhu's way of showing to the world the difference between this ritualistic, smartic, Brahmana consciousness and bhakti. Because it's said that when you get prasadam, you should take it immediately. Just take it to your head and eat it. You shouldn't, whatever. If you get prasadam, just take, unless it's a fast day, take it. And so he didn't even get up, he didn't bathe, he didn't even wash himself, he didn't even wash his mouth. He just took the prasadam. And Mahaprabhu was like, look at you. You're like this funky old, strict, sterile, smarta, ritualistic Brahmin. Couldn't, walk across the street without chanting a mantra, and could only do it at a certain direction at a certain time of day. And now look at this. You've dropped all the rules and rituals and you're taking prasadam. So what's the significance of that? The significance of that, many, many things. But the significance is we can see that Mahaprabhu is melting the hearts, the stone-like hearts of the Mayavadis. So that's what bhakti does. And so it's not Mahaprabhu is showing you don't have to be a Sarvabhauma, a great scholar, to advance in spiritual life. Whereas if you're going through the Mayavad path, studying Vedanta, you have to know Sanskrit. You have to be a sannyasi. You have to, like, all these requirements. So through this story, Mahaprabhu is showing that the superior position of bhakti to jnana, and showing it in many ways. And as I said, also showing you don't have to be a scholar. In fact, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's scholarship was just an impediment to his bhakti. Then you have the example that Prabhupada often says, well, the gopis, they just loved Krishna. They weren't scholars. So in this way, Mahaprabhu was showing the superiority of bhakti and how all this ritualistic this and ritualistic that, it's not what it's all about. Parodharma, Bhagavatam says, the parodharma. What's the parodharma? As Prabhupada always said, if your religion is helping you love God, it's good. And he would quote that verse from Bhagavatam. He said, otherwise, that which gives love of God, that's the best religion. Otherwise, forget it. What's the point? So, Mahaprabhu taught this in many occasions with Buddhists, with other Mayavadis, melting their hearts. And these Mayavadis were engaged in a very austere life, studying Vedanta, very serious. And when they would see Mahaprabhu chanting and dancing, as a sannyasi, they couldn't understand. This is not the activity of a sannyasi. Like, why are you chanting and dancing? This is like sentimentalism, meaning it's not based on Shastra. It just doesn't make sense. It's almost like sensual. And then Mahaprabhu told them, this was to Prakashananda, he said, my guru told me I can't understand Vedanta. So it's like, hint, hint, you also, you think you can understand? Hint, hint, I could run circles around you in debate, and I can't understand Vedanta. Of course, I don't think at that point they understood that Mahaprabhu could defeat them philosophically, but he was making this point that you're trying to become liberated through knowledge. And it's Kali Yuga, we're not that smart. And it's not even an efficient process anyway, and it has limitations of where it will get you. So he told Prakashananda Saraswati, he said, look at Swami. No, he didn't say that. But if you wanted to make a modern version of it, you could say, look at Swami. I'm a fool. My guru knows I'm a fool. And so he said, you can't understand Vedanta. So he gave me this mantra, and it's like I just chant it. And I feel all these symptoms of ecstasy. I can't control it. So then, as you may know, the story, Mahaprabhu, when he was given the Maha Mantra by his guru, he said to his guru after, I don't know, a day, 2, 3 days, he was experiencing all ecstatic symptoms of Mahabhav. The highest levels of love is Mahabhav. Only very rare devotees experience that. And this is what Radharani is experiencing. And so he said, it's kind of like you take a medicine and you get a rash. And it's like, doctor, this medicine's giving me a rash. It's like, so he goes to the guru and saying, similarly, doctor, you've given me this mantra, but it's making me crazy. It's like, all right, well, what are the symptoms? Well, hair standing on end, voice choking, tears, rolling on the ground, like that. And his guru said, oh my Govinda, this is amazing. You've actually reached the highest stage. And he congratulated him. So it's kind of the joke is, when you become mad in love of Krishna, then you've achieved perfection. Madness. What's the goal of Krishna consciousness? To become mad. To become a crazy man. Baal. Baal means, they have this group called Baals. I think it means crazy. So they say, the goal is to become crazy in ecstasy. So, yes. So he was showing them that, this is what I got. I got what can satisfy the heart, and your knowledge cannot satisfy the heart. It's not possible. But I have what will satisfy the heart, and it came through the Maha Mantra. So, converting these great scholars, it doesn't mean we should all be foolish. It doesn't mean we all shouldn't study Shastra. We shouldn't know the verses. We should. But it means that that's an aspect of bhakti, and we should study. It doesn't become gyan because it's meant to increase our bhakti, but just knowledge for knowledge's sake, to remain detached and to merge into Brahman, that is of no use for us. So these people were actually wasting their lives in Mayavad philosophy and Mayavad renunciation. Mahaprabhu saved them all. If you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, then you see how he went. Different classes of people trying to save them, one by one by one. Students and Buddhists and this and that. And how was he saving them? He was saving them with the holy name, giving them, melting their heart. That's the whole mood. Bhakti is melting the heart. Let's bring it back to us. How do we fit into this whole situation? The only thing I think we somehow or other, it doesn't even matter. but somehow or other we're here. Maybe it's our past devotional service. Maybe it's some pious credit we received. Who knows? Maybe we were an ant and Mahaprabhu walked on us while he was doing kirtan. Who knows? We were a fly in our last life and landed in the Charnamrita. Who knows? But Prabhupada's point is, now that you're in the university and you got in and you don't deserve it, don't be so foolish to say, this university is so hard, they give me so much homework, I have to stay up so late studying. When we start talking about devotional service like that, it's like a high school dropout who's got a seat in Oxford on the way to becoming an Oxford scholar and professor and complaining. I think that's important for us to realize. So, Mahaprabhu is he's melting hearts. He melted Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's heart. That was pretty hard. He melted Prakashananda Saraswati heart and all his disciples' hearts. Those hearts are very hard. Can he not melt our heart? Are we more hard-hearted than they? Are we to take this for granted? Now, we look at Sarvabhauma, immediately he doesn't take it for granted, and he composes those verses. And then, because he doesn't take it for granted, Mahaprabhu reciprocates. And what does he do? He shows him that he's Krishna and Narayan. That's what he saw. It's like, okay, I'm convinced. He reveals himself. So when we come to that level where there's so much appreciation and so much bhav in the heart, then Krishna will show himself. So I think the example of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is good to remember, because he fought Mahaprabhu, but he didn't fight much. And he was very proud and very learned. So he was in a difficult position, in a sense, to get bhakti, because of that kind of pride and reputation. But when he got it, he went full force with it. He understood, by Mahaprabhu's mercy, he understood what he got, and he didn't say, well, I'll keep some of my Mayavad just in the closet in case I need it. That was thrown out. And he was just now absorbed in appreciation and then spreading Krishna consciousness. So this is a very good example for us. And, if the heart is too hard, then there's no room for appreciation. It just becomes excuses. Why did he make it so hard? And why did Prabhupada have to say this? And why do we have to do this and all this? This is not good. And why can't we chant less? And why can't there be less principles? And so on and so forth. So that's a good way, I think, to start our discussion. And I will go to your questions now, which may last to the end of class. But that sounds, I think that sets a good foundation upon which to build our discussions. And I can't overemphasize how important appreciation is. And so whatever you have to do to appreciate Mahaprabhu, do it. Okay. Krishna Karshani says, is it not dangerous getting mercy we are not ready for it? It seems that many devotees who left were not ready for such a huge amount of mercy they got. You can say it's dangerous, but we didn't get, I don't think we got mercy that we couldn't handle. I rather look at it from the perspective that we got mercy and we didn't handle it, in the sense that we didn't take advantage of it. Not that there was like too much we didn't know what to do with. It's like I have too much money and I just end up being a playboy. No, I just had the right amount of money and I didn't know how to utilize it, and I lost it all. Or I misplaced it or misinvested it. So I don't think we had too much money. I think we didn't maybe understand the value of it, or we didn't know how to use it. But if you think about it, how can you give up anything that you appreciate, deeply appreciate? It's very difficult to give up something you deeply appreciate. Of course, I understand weakness may be there, and I may appreciate it in my head. But what I'm talking about is appreciating in your heart, not just your head. And if you develop a bad attitude, if you compromise your sadhana, then you could lose that appreciation in your heart. And so a lot of devotees may become weak. Some devotees may become weak or even leave ISKCON. And they may still fully appreciate in their mind, intellectually, Krishna consciousness, but it's not in their heart. They're not feeling to do it. They're not inspired to do it. And so that's really the crucial area, keeping that inspiration. On two levels. One level, enough inspiration to maintain steadiness in Krishna consciousness. And the second level, enough inspiration to continue to spread Krishna consciousness despite all setbacks. So that's so important. So I wouldn't say we're getting too much mercy, but like mercy can always be misused if we don't properly take advantage. You know, I can give you cooking ingredients and you can make a mess. You can overspice. You can burn it. You can overcook it. So it's not that the ingredients were bad or you had too many. You just didn't use them properly. So I would look at it more like that. Misuse. Yes. We want mercy, but we want to have mercy. If you think of mercy like money, we want money, but money's not good if you don't know how to use it. Better you don't have it. Or better you learn how to use it. You know, for people who come from a poor background, when they get money, they're better carekeepers of it than people who come from wealthier backgrounds. Not always in every situation, but often. People who've always had money take it for granted. They may not be able to care for it as well as people who grew up poor, and then when they made money, they take more care of it. So our position's like that. We're poor, we've been given the mercy, we should take care of it, we should use it, cook it down, churn it, thicken it. Not just, it's really bad when Krishna gives you so much mercy and it's like, well, whatever. And you just schnick, wom, your way through 16 rounds. And, read Prabhupada's books 10 minutes a week. This is really bad, Don't see the deities, don't have some worship at home, or don't go to the temple, don't associate, and just go on with our lives pretty much like everyone else in the world. That's really bad, considering you've been given so much. So I think it's really a question of using it. And I would also say that Krishna is not giving us more mercy than we can digest. It's just our digestion may not be working well. So we should work on our digestion. He's not going to give us more mercy than we can digest. Because Prabhupada was asked this question, why doesn't Krishna give us more mercy? Like we think, I need more mercy. We all think we need more mercy. And Prabhupada said, he's not going to give you more than you can utilize. It'll be like giving money to someone who doesn't know how to spend it. So Krishna's, we should think Krishna's giving us enough mercy, just enough money that we won't make a big mess. And he'll give more as we use it. I think that's the correct understanding. Jyotirmayi says, yesterday I was reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and a point of a purport, Prabhupada says, Krishna is absolute. Oh, I wasn't supposed to sing that song. Krishna is absolute, so his anger and his joy have the same value. This hit me like a stroke, because I hope you didn't have a stroke. Like lightning, right? Because I have so much difficulty in realizing that bad things in life are actually a mercy from the Lord. Relating it to Lord Chaitanya's mercy in this Kali Yuga is obvious, but still so hard to realize. Well, it is true. It can be a challenge to realize because we don't want bad things to happen. And it poses a challenge of faith also. Because if something bad happens, we think, well, either to us or somebody else, we think, Krishna, this person is a devotee, they're sincere, and why are they undergoing all of this? This doesn't seem fair, it doesn't seem right. It almost makes it seem like haphazard, like, do they deserve it? Is anybody in charge up there? How could you allow this to happen? These doubts are there, no doubt. But the Bhagavatam says something much different. And I was having a discussion while I was responding to a WhatsApp message this morning. And a devotee was having some difficulty. And kind of looking at the difficulty from a perspective of his own, kind of philosophical outlook on what's happening. But his philosophical outlook wasn't based in the scripture. So if we have an outlook which is not based in the scripture, it's not supported by what the scripture says, then the outlook is ultimately, we have to understand the outlook is being influenced most likely if there's no evidence for it. I would say in most cases it's coming subjectively, filtered through the modes of nature. And so if you filter your vision through the modes of nature, then the reaction is going to be through that mode of nature. And in Kali Yuga, most people are in the mode of ignorance. So if we're not using Shastra to filter our knowledge, then most of the way we see things and analyze things and come to conclusions is going to be wrong. And it's going to be tamasic. And tamasic is going to bring us down. It's going to bring us away from Krishna. It's going to make us angry at Krishna. It's going to make us frustrated with Krishna or frustrated with ourselves. Or it's going to make us depressed or lonely or so many other similar emotions that could come up when something bad happens. So now when something bad happens, the Bhagavatam says, we should see that worse was supposed to happen, and Krishna eliminated the worse. Due to my past sins or whatever, I deserve worse. Krishna minimized that, and therefore the devotee thinks, Krishna is so merciful, because according to my karma, I would have suffered more. Krishna is so merciful, I deserve worse. And then the verse continues to say that if you have this attitude, with this attitude, it's guaranteed you will go back to Godhead. This is the attitude that guarantees that you go back to Godhead. So any other attitude, you could say, just for the sake of discussion, you could say any other attitude is the attitude that will keep you here. Because if it's opposite of that attitude, and that's the attitude that will get you out of here, that any other attitude would keep you here. So it's an interesting verse. It turns everything around. You could say it turns everything on its head, because it's not naturally how we think. So in discussing your point or dealing with the difficulty, this is the verse that's really important for us. It's spoken by Lord Brahma in the 10th canto. This is the verse that we really have to go to when there's difficulty. That I deserve worse. It starts this way. Tate nukampam sushamikshamaano. Tat, if you want to look it up. Tat, T-A-T, and then T-E / I believe, tate anukampam. So it's T-E apostrophe anu, A-N-U, kampam, C-O-M-P-A-M, I think. nukampam. Compassion. Anukam. It is Krishna's compassion. So, always try to understand things through the vision of Shastra, and that vision is transcendental, and so that's what's going to help us. But if we just see it through our own conditioning, then, Krishna, how could you do that? That's so bad. I don't believe in you, or I don't know if I want to be a devotee, etc., etc. Then, our own consciousness can drive us away from Krishna. And so the Bhagavatam is there to drive us towards Krishna. And so we have to see through Shastra, because often our vision becomes very, very tamasic. And, sometimes, do you ever have this experience, like sometimes it looks like something bad's going to happen, but it doesn't? Or something even good happens, and we're doubting Krishna. Why did you allow this to happen? This is so bad. This is unfair. And none of that happened. And we made all these offenses to Krishna. Krishna, it's hard being God because you get offended all the time. Like billions of universes of billions, unlimited numbers of people offending you all the time because they don't like the way you operate, because they don't understand who you are and that you would never do anything to harm anyone. We can't always understand the karma of different living entities and why things happen. But this verse is meant to be our guide. I deserve worse. And you can understand that that's the humility of a devotee. A devotee doesn't blame Krishna. And you can understand if you don't think that way, then Krishna, why have you abandoned me? What's going on? We never want to think like that. So rather than think Krishna has abandoned me, we just think, I'm so sinful. He's so kind. He's eliminating. It's interesting, isn't it? So Krishna Karshani says, you compared receiving mercy to entering into university, not even passing a high school test. I understand your point, but if someone did not graduate high school, sooner or later will be kicked out from university because it's not on the level of university. No, the university will take them at any level and teach them. What about us when we're getting mercy? We are not qualified to get it as Krishna. If Krishna is qualified, why some getting qualifications, some not? We get, it depends on our receptivity because we're all individuals. So, we all go to class, the same class, but some of us do better than others. You might say, well, some are more intelligent, but really, if you look at it just practically, although that's true, but everyone can do well in school, unless you have an IQ of minus something. Unless you're some way handicapped, every normal person can do really well in school if they apply themselves. Well, some people it's easier. It's faster. They don't have to study as hard. They're just smarter. They retain more. They understand more. So you find that in spiritual life. Some people, they're more evolved spiritually due to their past samskars or their upbringing in this life. But it's not like Prabhupada ever said, well, the Indians, they can become Krishna conscious, but everybody else is going to take 3 lifetimes. Indians will go back to Godhead in 1 lifetime. It was always about sincerity and application. So that's how to look at it. And if you feel handicapped, it just means you have to try harder, practice more, do better. That's how I always take it. If I'm not satisfied with where I'm at, I work on it to do better. That's how we do everything in life, right? If you're not satisfied, then we do better. We try to do better somehow. Yes? What else can we do? We just, don't lament your fallen condition. Just try harder if you feel fallen. Nadi says, I heard Prabhupada said in one class, one who is mad for Bhagavan, he is as good as Bhagavan. in the sense of rasa, yeah, because the lover and the lover, the lover and the lover become one in love. So in that sense. And actually, it's funny, because the Mayavadis are trying to become God, and Krishna gives better position to his devotee. So the devotee becomes better than God, but they become one in love. We've said before, you don't think you're just doing all the work. You're trying, I'm chanting all day, and I'm doing this and that, and trying to develop my love for Krishna. And, Krishna's just out, playing with the cowherd boys, He doesn't care about me. No, it's not like that. The lover and the beloved become one. So Krishna is always reciprocating more than we're giving. He's in our heart. He knows what's going on. He's all pervasive. He's there. Well, Jyotirmai says I have stopped to reach the 10th canto. You can go to that verse. Read it in the purport. Tate nukampam sushamikshamana vidvagbapurve vidadan namaste. Vidvagbapurve vidadan. And you go on, body, mind, and words, serving Krishna. You don't give up. You think, oh, I deserve worse. I tolerate. I go on. Then I inherit it. I am entitled to Krishna consciousness if I do that. It's guaranteed. I become the inheritor of love of Krishna. That's the verse. Tanya says, mercy somehow seems to me like an open vault. Anyone can come inside and take as much as he wants. 2. According to our conditioning, some of us rush in greedily and try to take more than we can really carry, even though the vault is inexhaustible. And some of us may say, oh, okay, I know it's there. I guess I'll come by tomorrow, day after tomorrow, or some other day. And those lucky souls who know how to use it properly will come every day and take it from the vault exactly as much as they can carry. Okay, so the key here, there's the verse, Nadi put it up. Tatenu kampam sashya bhakshamam bunjana evatma kritam vibhakam vidvag vapur virvidana namaste. I'm forgetting the last line. Namaste jivete yo mukti pade sadaya bhak. Yes, there's a verse. Okay. You can look at that verse, Jyotirmaya, and I'll answer Tanya's question. Mercy is interesting because, although it sounds contradictory, there is some qualification to get mercy. Yes. So, they all go to the vault and take mercy, but they can't actually take more than they can carry because they can only carry what they're capable. Like you can only lift so much weight. And also, there is some qualification to get mercy. Some mercy is just, it's given freely. Okay, everybody in the university. But now, if you're going to get good grades, we're not giving away good grades for free. You have to actually do something to get good grades. So here's the mercy, take the Mahamantra. But then you have to actually take it and chant without offense. That's the idea. So the vault has the Mahamantra, then you take it, but you have to invest it. So you get some return on it. So the mercy alone is not enough. So I think both things are there. And then, another way, because looking at it, Tanya, because it's spiritual, is this: the mercy keeps increasing according to how well you use the mercy that you've been given. It's like built in. It's built in to expand itself. So I've given the Mahamantra, I use the mercy. I serve well, and that mercy expands. That's the idea. So, even you can expand even a little mercy. You take advantage of it, and then you apply it in your life, and then you'll get more mercy. So it's kind of like planting a garden. That's another way. Of course, we always want more mercy. We can always get more mercy. But we always have to, remember, if you get in this mood like I'm always trying to grab mercy, but you're not using the mercy you're getting, then it's like a cup with a hole in it. A basketball with a little air leaking out of it. So you're always putting in more mercy, but it's leaking out. You're not using it. So I think some devotees are in that mood. I always want mercy, more mercy, more mercy. That's good, but I would say, ask yourself, am I utilizing well the mercy that I have? Because you can get more mercy by utilizing the mercy that you have. Okay, so we're going to go now. Hare Krishna to all of you. We will see you later. It's Wednesday, Japa Day. Hare Krishna. So the Japa schedule is that it's actually an hour later because of my time frame. Because I'm on daylight savings. So I think it's 11 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is an hour later than normal. So I don't know if that helps you or it's good for you. For some people, maybe it's good, some not. But you're all welcome. Hare Krishna. We will see you later. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.